This deeply devoted young woman suffered the tragic loss of her mother, yet rather than returning to her biological father, she chose to stay behind and care for her stepfather. Initially, the two merely leaned on one another to survive, but over time, their mutual reliance transformed into an intense, forbidden romance. Despite being consumed by overwhelming guilt, the man found himself powerless against his desires. His conscience tormented him relentlessly, yet to no avail. Under one roof, day and night, their taboo relationship continued to blossom. Still, bridging a massive generational divide and facing societal condemnation was never going to be easy, leaving the lingering question of whether this was truly boundless love, or merely a surrender to carnal impulse. Remy was a working pianist who lived with his wife, Linda, and her daughter Marion. While he found artistic fulfillment in his craft, it generated very little income, plunging the household into persistent financial hardship. Having once vowed to achieve success by the time he turned 30, Remy was now 29 and a half, yet remained nothing more than an obscure musician with only 6 months left to reach his milestone. Meanwhile, his wife was a former model past her prime. At her age, surviving the cutthroat entertainment industry was nearly impossible, and without the limelight, making a living became a harsh struggle. Accustomed to luxury, makeup, and glamorous attire, Linda grew increasingly bitter over their poverty. She routinely lashed out at her husband, berating him for being an unstable 30-year-old whose sporadic gigs could barely put food on the table. Aware of his own shortcomings, Remy simply swallowed his pride and tried to soothe her with gentle words, acknowledging the hardships she endured. Linda, however, dismissed his sincerity entirely, raising her voice and hurling relentless criticisms at him. Before heading out, she demanded pocket money from her husband, but Remy could only fish a single crumpled bill from his pockets. To make matters worse, their car stalled and refused to start. As Remy exhausted himself pushing the vehicle from behind, Linda sat inside, complaining bitterly. Though deeply hurt, Remy chose patience and did everything he could to help his wife reach her interview on time. Suddenly, disaster struck at a busy intersection when an unbraked truck slammed violently into her car. Linda was killed instantly on impact. By the time Remy rushed to the scene, it was already too late. The police were covering her body and transporting her remains for processing. Lacking the courage to break the devastating news to Marion face-to-face, Remy borrowed her notebook and pen to write down the tragic occurrence. Early the next morning, he slipped out of the house under the pretense of grocery shopping, quietly leaving the note on the table. When he returned, Marion initially believed it was a cruel April Fool's joke. But once Remy confirmed the truth, she burst into uncontrollable tears. Overcome by grief, Remy broke down as well, and the two embraced, weeping in sorrow. He gently reassured Marion, promising that he would take Linda's place in providing and caring for her. The following day, Remy went to see Charlie, Linda's first husband and Marion's biological father. He delivered the tragic news of Linda's fatal accident and offered to raise Marion himself. However, Charlie harbored suspicions regarding Remy's intentions and adamantly insisted that Marion return to live with him. Despite Remy's earnest attempts to reason with him, Charlie refused to budge. A disheartened Remy returned home and instructed Marion to pack her bags for her father's arrival the next morning. Marion, however, dreaded the thought of returning, recalling how Charlie's past domestic violence had torn their family apart. She pleaded with her stepfather to find a way to let her stay, but with the law against him, Remy was entirely powerless and could only hold her in bed, weeping in despair. The next morning, Charlie arrived by car. Marion opened the door, her face heavy with despair at the sight of her father. Remy stepped forward to comfort her, assuring her that everything would be fine, and that they could still see each other regularly to talk through their difficulties. That evening at work, Remy's heavy heart compromised his piano playing. The hotel manager reprimanded him for a lack of professionalism and fired him on the spot. A few days later, Marion ran away from her father's home to find Remy, declaring that she could no longer bear living with Charlie. Deeply touched, Remy nonetheless admitted his current dilemma. Having just lost his job, he could barely support himself, let alone her. Marion reassured him not to worry, proposing that she could take up babysitting while he gave private piano lessons, which would provide enough to get by. Remy agreed to the plan, though they both knew Charlie would not let the matter rest. Predictably, Charlie stormed over to Remy's house that evening, banging on the door and demanding to see his daughter while accusing Remy of harboring her. Charlie pushed his way inside, and upon failing to convince Marion to leave, directed his fury at Remy, punching him squarely in the face. Unable to hold back any longer, Remy fought back, and the two grown men engaged in a brawl like children. The fight only ceased when Marion stepped in to intervene. She carefully cleaned and bandaged both their wounds. Realizing he had lost this battle, Charlie finally relented, instructing Remy to take good care of his daughter before leaving. From then on, the stepfather and stepdaughter shared a peaceful routine under the same roof, with Remy teaching piano and Marion taking care of children. Their days passed smoothly until Marion failed an exam at school. Remy urged her to prioritize her studies, assuring her that his income was now sufficient to support them both. Surprisingly, Marion confessed that babysitting was not the cause of her falling grades. Rather, she was constantly distracted at school thinking about Remy. She openly admitted having romantic feelings for him, and expressed a desire to marry him. Stunned and alarmed, Remy sternly reminded her of their familial relationship and ordered her out of his room. The next morning, Marion brought up the subject again, but Remy chose to ignore her and spent the day at a friend's house. Returning late that night, he found Marion still awake, asking to sleep in his room. Losing his temper, Remy shoved her to the floor, leaving her in tears as she walked away. The next day, the school principal summoned both Remy and Charlie regarding Marion's behavior, reporting that teachers found her completely disoriented in class. Believing her academic decline stemmed from the trauma of her mother's death, the principal advised them to give her more attention. Worried about his daughter, Charlie arranged for Marion to stay in the countryside, hoping the fresh mountain air would help restore her well-being. The following morning, Remy helped Marion carry her luggage to the train station. At the moment of departure, he could no longer suppress his emotions and kissed her passionately, both of them lingering in a tearful embrace. Having given all his remaining money to Marion, Remy was unable to pay his rent and was evicted by his landlord that very night. Left with no choice, he sought temporary shelter at a friend's place, drowning his sorrows in borrowed alcohol. Suddenly, the phone rang. It was Marion calling to say how much she missed him and wished to return. Hearing her voice, Remy's eyes brightened, and he told her to stay put, promising a Christmas surprise. Braving the long journey, Remy drove out to the remote countryside. Marion was overjoyed to see her stepfather. She quickly changed her clothes, ran out to his car, and showered him with kisses. Aware of his financial struggles, she even provided him with money for a motel room. After she left, Remy felt a storm of conflicting emotions, his eyes welling up with tears over his profound moral guilt. Later that afternoon, Marion quietly entered his motel room, locked the door, and lay down beside him on the bed. On his drive back, Remy was consumed with remorse toward Linda, unable to comprehend how he had crossed such a line. A few days later, Marion took a train back to the city with her luggage to find Remy. Instead of joy, Remy was filled with immense anxiety. He had no choice but to bring her to his rundown apartment, though he had prepared a neat and welcoming room for her. However, Remy consciously kept his distance physically. When Marion confronted him, he used his age as an excuse, telling her she ought to pursue men her own age and insisting they remain strictly stepfather and stepdaughter. Frustrated by his rejection, Marion invited a crowd of local youths over to party. When Remy returned from work, he was shocked by the scene, yet he forced himself to stay calm and,